I'm going to talk about how to respond, because I think some of what you're asking there really does come into how we respond. It has a little bit to do with the way they process information. It can sometimes be work avoidance. Sometimes it can be attention seeking. Boys are very interested, especially older boys, very interested in being the class clown because it gets them peer recognition. So let's talk about that as we go through the how to respond. This episode's brought to you by the Behaviour Management Blueprint, which is my free ebook and video course that will teach you the 5 fundamentals of behaviour management. So you can get that for free by clicking the link in the description. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, the critical link for boys succeeding in the classroom is relationships. So the number one thing you have to prioritize with the boys in your class is relationship above all else. It's not pedagogy, it's not lesson prep, it's not structure of your classroom. Although all of those things are important, you have to prioritize relationship, because if a boy does not trust you, if a boy does not think that you believe in him, or if he doesn't feel safe with you, he is never going to learn from you. It doesn't matter how smart that boy is. If he doesn't perceive that you have his back and you are on his side, he is going to diminish his ability to learn based on the relationship that he perceives. So what we need with boys are to develop deep connected relationships, and engagement and behavior would tend to take care of itself. When a boy cares about his teacher, he will go out of his way to behave and to moderate his behavior in the classroom for the sake of the relationship. Boys have a very strong affinity to maternal figures because, you know, that first 5 years, they're very attached to their mums. And so when they perceive, especially with female teachers, as a maternal figure, what they do is they go out of their way to protect the person that is protecting them, the person that is caring for them. They want to protect that relationship. So it's really important that you take the time to build that deep connectedness with your boys. John Maxwell says they don't care what you know until they know how much you care. This has to be your number one priority. Get them to realize that you care about them and that you want them in your class and that you have their back and you believe in them. You know, there was a study done with schools in Canada to prioritize relationships over control. And what they asked their teachers to do is just to learn the names of the students, and to, every time they came across a student, to have a 60-second encounter with that student by saying hello, greeting them by name, asking them how they are, and then stopping long enough to hear the response. So, hi, Johnny, how are you? And then waiting for a response. It's not a long engagement, but it was meaningful, where the teacher actually took time to actually take an interest in the student. And what they found was that engagement and disruptive behavior in the class reduced by almost 80%. It had a profound effect on behavior when the students believed that teachers actually cared about them. And so I want you to think about that for a moment. Think about all the interactions you have with your boys throughout the day, and ask yourself, is this helping me build positive, mutually respectful relationships with my boys? If it's not, then that's where you need to start with your engagement. One of the keys to building relationship with boys is understanding that boys are shameophobes. Boys are very sensitive to public humiliation, and public humiliation can happen in a couple of different ways. And so you have to be really mindful that you are not playing into this shameophobia, if you like. See, when you publicly humiliate or berate or single out a boy for their behavior, what you're doing is inviting them to respond in kind. They have to save face, because especially for older boys, if they are keyed into how their peers perceive them, then if you humiliate them, they will go out of their way to humiliate you. And this is when often boys can give some of their worst behaviors, is because they feel humiliated and they feel like they have to save face for their peers. The other way that you can sometimes make a boy feel shame or feel embarrassed is by praising them too much in front of their peers. Very often, boys don't like to be praised in public. They like to be praised in private. Praise is very powerful and it's very important to use with boys, but you've got to be judicious about how you use it. You know, sometimes you can give a boy a certificate on assembly and he can come back to class and give you his worst behavior, because that perception of I'm being favored by the teacher can get him into trouble in the playground. And he doesn't want to stand out. Boys want to fit in. And so just be careful. Sometimes you've got to use private praise. Write a note, send an email home, call mum, you know, pull him aside at the end of the lesson, let him know you saw what he was doing. And, you know, both with praise and with correction, try to do it privately. You know, sit down beside his desk when you want to talk to him about his behavior rather than calling out from the other side of the room. You know, same with praise. Go over to their desk and talk to them quietly so that they know that you see their behavior is good, but they don't feel embarrassed by it. So this is really important if you're going to build relationship. Boys are also very keyed into who's in charge. Boys are attuned to hierarchies, and they're always asking the question in their mind, who's the boss? Who's in charge? If boys perceive or believe that you are not in control of the classroom, or they don't respect your authority in the classroom, very often they will start to undermine your authority or try to take control. And so you've got to be really careful that you are not inviting power struggles with boys, because generally speaking, there's nothing you can do that will be worse than what they can do to you. And these power struggles in the class can often end very badly. And so it's really important that you learn strategies of dealing with power struggles in ways that do not escalate significantly. They want to know if they're safe with the person in charge. So if you know, I want to say this to relief teachers. If you're a relief teacher, don't walk into the class like a drill sergeant. If you walk into the class like a drill sergeant, what you're telling them is, I'm not going to take the time to get to know you or to respect you. I'm just going to start barking at you, and instantly you will attract the ire of the boys who want to control you. So it's really important that you you can be strict, you can be firm, but take a kind and respectful approach with the boys. And if they can see that they are safe with you, that you're not just going to tear their head off the minute they speak up, then they will start to trust you and they will let you be in charge. You have to let them give you authority in the class. Don't try and take it from them, because if you try and do that, it's always going to end badly. Make them feel safe, show them that you're going to protect them, and they will give you the authority. So back in the day, now when I was in school, and some of you might be old enough to remember this too, we had the cane. And this is what happened with a lot of boys who misbehaved. They would be sent to the principal's office for the cane. I got the first cane when I was in grade 1, and it sort of continued through my school life. And what would happen is the school would call my mum, and then they would tell her what I'd been doing. And so when I'd get home, my mum would have a conversation with me, or my dad would have a conversation with me about my behavior. And it didn't matter how much I complained about my teacher or said, you know, I don't like my teacher, or my teacher was treating me badly. My parents always tended to say to me, it doesn't matter whether you like your teacher, you must respect your teacher. You see, back in the day, there was a sense of respect for authority that doesn't exist now. A great many kids come to school not being taught to respect their teachers, but being taught that they don't have to respect their teachers unless the teacher earns it. And so if you're from the time of school like me, where you just were taught to respect your teachers, maybe you expect children to respect you as well. And that can be very counterproductive, because when you're dealing with kids who don't understand respect the way that you do, you have to do something called modeling it, because teachers' authority is not reinforced from home like it used to be. And so you've got to take the approach that I have to earn their respect. I can't assume that they're going to respect me. Now, I will say this, you deserve to be respected, and I don't actually agree that you should have to earn it, but that's the reality of the world that we work and live in. And so when you take the expectation that I'm going to have to earn the respect of my students by the way that I treat them, you're not going to be so disappointed when they maybe treat you less than you expect. Things like shouting continually, humiliating or making fun of the student, shaming them, making an example, giving them long lectures are all counterintuitive ways of managing difficult boys. All it will do is get them confronting you, escalating with you, refusing to listen. And it doesn't teach any character. The only thing that teaches character is modeling or example. If you want to earn their respect, you have to show them what respect looks like, even when it's not deserved. Now, I'm going to say that again. You have to show them what respect looks like, even when it's not deserved. That means you have to model how to talk to somebody who's upsetting you. You have to model forgiveness. You have to model patience. You have to model self-control. Because if you want your students to do that for you, then they need to see you do it for them first. So to do that, you really have to leave your prejudice at the door. You have to be really careful that you are not taking the opinions of other teachers into the classroom and letting that affect the way that you teach these students. You have to make sure that you give them all a fresh start. Boys have great BS detectors. They know when you care about them and when you don't. And they want to know how much you actually care about them. Boys' behavior is firstly driven by a need to test the authenticity of the person they are being asked to trust. So if they don't believe that they can trust you, well, you'll never have their respect. It's as simple as that. You have to be trustworthy. You have to be kind. You have to be dependable for boys. Some of the other relationship strategies that you can use is humor. Boys love humor, but avoid sarcasm. Sarcasm doesn't work. It's a form of humiliation, okay? So be careful with sarcasm. Physical touch, so high fives, handshakes, fist bumps. Boys are very physical. When they communicate affection, this is why boys are always barging into each other and pushing each other over. They're communicating affection with their friends. And so you use appropriate physical interactions with boys to communicate that you like them. Give them the inside track. Let them think that they know something special about what's coming up. You know, give them the secret source of what's coming up after the break, and they'll think that they are really special. Let them be the hero. Give them opportunities to get up in class and talk about what they care about. Let them show how much they know, because they'll thank you. They all want to be important. They all want to feel important. And if you can help them to feel important, even if the topic's not what you're teaching, they will actually reward you with good behavior. I hope that was really helpful. If you've enjoyed this and you'd like to go deeper, check out some of our online courses. Behaviour Management Essentials and Understanding and Educating Boys are both available on karmaclassrooms.today/online, and you can see that link down in the description. And if you've enjoyed it, share it with somebody, hit the subscribe button so you keep up to date, and we'd love to hear from you. So give us a comment and a like, and I look forward to talking to you next time. I'm Tarun Stevenson for Karma Classrooms.